Namaste everyone. My name is Mahesh Prabhu and I am founder director of Vedic Management Center. On June 30th, 2019, we are launching a one of its kind comprehensive online course called as Kautilya Leadership Program. The Kautilya Leadership Program is a very distinct as well as timeless approach based on the teachings of Kautilya in his version of Arthashastra. Now, most people believe that Kautilya was author of Arthashastra. That is pretty much incorrect. The most important thing that you must understand is that Arthashastra itself as a text existed in India for at least 5000 years. And Kautilya, who lived around 4 BCE, only compiled and edited it further along with his own commentaries for the sake of clarity. So, what Kautilya exactly did is that he made some fundamental understandings that previous authors of Kautilya, of Arthashastra, like Bharadwaja, Parashara, Bhrigu, Shukracharya, Vamadeva, and even Pishuna, and so on and so forth. He made the entire text so simple and so effective for any person to understand and benefit from. Now, the Kautilya's Arthashastra is written in Vedic Sanskrit. And the another important aspect of Arthashastra is that it is built on the knowledge of the Vedic philosophy. For example, he in Arthashastra mentions anywhere and everywhere the words like karma, dharma, purushartha, and so on and so forth, but he doesn't define it. So clearly, he is not intending to explain you every aspect of it. He expects you to know these concepts in and out before you can benefit from it. Unfortunately, a great many amount of translations on Kautilya's Arthashastra that are available in the market today, they don't have much of a grounding in the Vedic Sanskrit or even Vedic philosophy. As a result, what has happened is that a lot of mistranslations have come into place, thereby completely distorting every aspect of the significant text. For example, Kautilya in his Artha Sutra, which is found at the end of the Arthashastra, says Sukhasya Moolam Dharma. That means that Sukha or happiness, the root of happiness is Dharma. Dharmasya Moolam Arthaha. The root of Dharma is in Artha. Arthasya Moolam Rajyam. That is, the root of Artha is Rajya. Now, these are the first three axioms that are mentioned in this particular text. Now, how it is translated is very interesting. For example, Sukhasya Moolam Dharma, the Dharma is mistranslated as religion. So, the translation becomes the root of happiness is religion. Dharmasya Moolam Arthaha. Now, the Artha is again mistranslated as currency. Now, their translation goes that the root of religion is currency. Arthasya Moolam Rajyam. The Rajyam is translated into a state or a country. So the narrow translation gives that the root of currency is the state. Now, does it exactly make any sense to you? For example, let's say atheists, people who don't believe in God. Why should they accept it? They don't believe in religion because they don't believe in God in the first place. So, the whole text has been misjudged and ignored for a great amount of time. And what Kautilya teaches in this text is what is unknown to humanity. Now, most people tell me that this Arthashastra is written over 2000 years old. So, what could possibly this great text teach us? My answer to them is pretty simple. Yes, it is true that there have been significant amount of advancement in technology, printing particularly, because of which we now have a democratic system of administration where you can have votes, you can have polling booths, and even have electoral voting machines and so on and so forth. But take a step back. Has the mind and approach of individuals to these aspects of life has changed even a wee bit? There was difficulties in life then, there are difficulties in life now. There was stress then, there is stress now. There is jealousy then, there is jealousy now. And no matter what, how good you do, there will always be detractors for anything and everything you are going to do in your own life. So the primary thing that nurtures, makes the thing happen is your own mind. Now, what is mind? Mind is not brain. In simple terms, if I have to explain you the difference between mind and a brain, the brain is like a CPU with a processor, and the mind is like an operating system which helps run this brain. Now, until and unless you do not understand your mind, you cannot understand anything in life. And the mind is most well explained in the Vedic text. Now, yet another travesty we face is that we haven't really looked at the Vedic text from a non-Semitic point of view. For example, when the foreigners came to India for various reasons, not just conquest, they had a religion with them. They had one god, two god, they had many god religions like paganism, and they wanted to understand what these Vedic texts are. And they wanted to learn from their perspective. Okay, we have this god. Do you have which god? So we have one holy book. What is the name of your own holy book? Today, if you are going to ask a Hindu what is his holy book, one person might say Bhagavad Gita, another person might say Veda, but there may be also some Hindus who may say that no, this is not my book at all, because I follow my Swadharma, I follow my own experiences. So, what is the Vedic knowledge then? How are you going to identify these basic terminologies that are mentioned in Arthashastra? So, you need to understand the Vedic philosophy first in order to take the full advantage of Kautilya's Arthashastra. And if you cannot understand what these basic precepts of Vedic philosophy are, trust me, you are going to get nothing out of Arthashastra, and Arthashastra will look just as waste. Arthashastra is often confused with the texts like Sun Tzu's The Art of War. And a lot of people, make a lot of unjust comparison. Definitely, Sun Tzu's Art of War is a great work. I admire the Chinese general who did a brilliant work in it. But Sun Tzu's Art of War was specifically written for generals and soldiers. And you need a conflict to use this theory. But in case of Arthashastra, it is much beyond. You don't need war, he says. And he provides you 4 avenues, 3 avenues before you take the final avenue of war. It is called Sam or Samadhan or patience, Dam or giving something, a gift or something like that, Dand, punishment, and if you cannot imply punishment, then it is Bhed or destruction or war. So the very fact that Kautilya spoke 3 avenues for war, whereas even today, if you look at it, most of the international diplomats have only 2 options. They say either you agree to the diplomatic or avenues that is in front of you, or you simply take the chance of war. We are going to attack you. And more than often, uh, the diplomacy is becoming more and more simply a prelude to war. It has become like a formality in most of the cases where a stronger nation send its diplomat to find to give an option, and the country which is at the receiving end, often disagrees, and then you have a war. And that is where the Kautilya's knowledge becomes substantially important. Averting war and sustaining peace. Those are the 2 keywords which the world needs today. Now you might say that, okay, I'm not a diplomat, I'm not a politician. What do I have got to do with this knowledge which is mostly about war and peace? The most important thing that you must understand in this particular aspect is that no matter what, every political decisions that is incurred in your lifetime is most certainly going to have a direct or indirect impact on you. So whether you like it or not, you have a burden liability which you are going to suffer. Now consider you are an entrepreneur or a businessman or even an executive, and the government has taken a decision to lay off. What are you going to do? Cry? Commit suicide? Your options are limited because you are being led. So how do you take a lead, at least of your own life, and find a way to sustain your own true self and your family? How do you find the clarity? How do you find an opportunity in each and every aspect of life? These are the questions which our academic systems today are not able to answer. Most people today get into academics, paying a huge hefty fees. But most of the time, these fees are taken on loan to get a job. And today, the most important aspect of life is that while the university education is very important, it is missing on some of the most critical aspects of life. And that is about understanding the dynamics of economics and the dynamics of politics. Not just on a regional, national scale, but as well as a global scale. Now, if you can understand all the dynamics together, you would know that every problem is actually simply a situation. And no matter what, every problem has a solution. For example, one of the most thing we fear today or dread today is what is called as economic depression, or a very bad state of an economy, or the better put word, the economic recession, where you lose job, you suffer a lot, your debt rises, you end up paying a significant interest rate, and there are so less opportunity in front of you. And if you observe life very carefully, it is like an ECG machine. So it starts from bottom, goes up, down, up, down, up, down. No matter what you do, no matter how well an administrator administers his region or a country, there are always going to be ups and downs in economy. And ups and downs of economy are but natural, and they are necessary. They are course corrections. For example, if you are going to make a country makes a lot of emphasis on extracting its natural reserves like gas, minerals, iron ores, and so on and so forth, all these resources are going to dry out someday. And the natural thing that is going to happen is that once these natural resources run out, your people are going to be without a job. So how are you going to address the unemployment issues? Because if the unemployment rises, it is indeed a direct threat to the national government, but it is an immediate threat to people like you and me who are at the receiving end, the direct receiving end. So, even to the best of their knowledge, our modern day economists are not able to answer as to what should an individual do. Where should he focus in order to get a better life? A great many questions are still unanswered. And all those answers I personally have found in Kautilya's Arthashastra. And the fantastic thing is that it is very easy. They don't complicate things. For example, when they wanted to send during 2006, 2004 to 2006, during the housing boom in US, when the bankers wanted to sell their toxic shares, they didn't sell it as a toxic share. They just rebranded it. They call it subprime mortgages. And these economists, they have so complicated unnecessarily with all the jargons and definition that a common man is unable to understand. Even probably a person with the BA or a PhD in economics will not be able to understand what these definitions are. And as a result, the common person suffers and he doesn't know what to do with his life. So Kautilya says that no matter what, you don't have to lose faith. Life is not as bad as you think. So if you want a better life, you just need to change the thought. Of course, it's not a hypothetical thing. It is a practical aspect. In the first phase of a Kautilya leadership program, what in this particular course, what you are going to learn is fundamentals of the various aspects of Vedic knowledge that are directly and indirectly related to your own life, as well as the fundamental teachings of Kautilya's Arthashastra. So once you take this course, you would have some clear idea as to the nature of your own true self, how your mind works and how to control your mind, how to make sure that you have a better health at all times or to maintain your health, and to understand how the money works, how money is different from wealth, and if you don't have any money, how do you create wealth? And once you have this wealth, how to even manage this wealth? And what constitutes the misuse of this wealth? And beyond anything and everything, how to use the wealth in a way that is enduring and in a way that you enrich not just your and your family's life, but also others' life, and find happiness in it. And not just that, you also make your own life more prosperous. To conclude, I want to just take this small opportunity to tell you a very interesting tale from one of my favorite books from Vedic scriptures called as Panchatantra. In Panchatantra, there is a wonderful story, and the story goes something like this. So it happened one day that there was an individual who was born into an affluent family. He was pretty rich, and but he was also philanthropic and he was very charitable. So one day, just by giving his wealth, he became a pauper. Now this man, all his life, had given the money, so his hand was like this. Now how can a man who has suddenly gone pauper beg? You cannot beg. The very idea that he has lost all his money made him feel sad. However, he didn't regret the fact that he gave his wealth for the right cause. So he went back home and asked his wife, "How much food do we have?" So she said should be good enough for a week's time almost. So he asked her to ration the food, to spend it very wisely, because he has lost all his money. She said, not, she can do that, it's not a big deal. But this guy was still stressed, and that night he couldn't sleep for a long time. And as the time passed, what exactly happened is a person came in his dream. And that person said, I am the wealth, I am your wealth that you had donated to all the needy people. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to come in this very same form. Just take a long wooden stick and bang it on my head. I will convert into all the gold coins. So morning he woke up and he recollected his dream, and there was a barber at his house who had come to do his hair. And sometime later, there was a individual at the door who said, Bhavati Bhiksham Dehi. So he was a student, and in the Vedic age, it used to happen that the student would go to a guru to learn something. And in exchange for learning, there was no fees. But the students would have to give something, to do some work, help them to run some errands. And for their own sustenance, they would have to beg. So the idea of begging was instituted primarily because the students needed to learn humility. So when you beg in front of someone, you cannot be arrogant to them. On the contrary, you would know your own limitations. And admiring others was one of the fundamental reasons for this. However, when the person said, Bhavati Bhiksham Dehi, the person looked at him and he said, oh, this is the same person who had come into my dream last night. So he called him in, he gave him some food, took a large stick and banged it on his head. And voila, all of a sudden, he turned into gold coins. Now there was a problem. The problem was that there was this one barber, you see, and he was looking at it, everything, and he was surprised, he was shocked. Now, this person didn't want the barber to go out and spread the wrong message. So he took a couple of gold coins and gave it to the barber and said to him, look, my friend, this is for you. Don't talk to anyone as to what has happened here. Okay, now you just go home and be happy. And that gold coin was probably 2 years of his earnings. The barber was very happy. And the barber simply went back to his home, and he commanded his wife that, sweetheart, please prepare food for 100 people. Said, have you gone nuts? How am I going to, I don't have any money left. So he said, don't worry, here is a gold coin. So she saw all the gold coins, she was very happy. And she said, no problem, you can call 1,000 people, I'll cook for them. So the next thing this barber did is that he went to the nearest Gurukul and he invited 100 students. He fed them the food, and the next thing what he did is he took a stick and started beating on everyone's head. Of course, this guy didn't get a gold coin, but he was thrown behind a gallows. The foremost thing, the lesson, what this story tells us is that just by looking at someone or even observing someone is not adequate for anyone to understand the reasons for someone else's success. Just because someone has gone to an X education institution, someone has done some business, and they have done really well in their life, that doesn't mean that you also can do the same thing. Comparison is the silliest form of knowledge, and that is not the knowledge in the first place. So if you're comparing yourself with someone else, the first thing that is going to definitely happen is that you are going to be absolutely unhappy, and in that unhappiness and in that state of a sad state of mind, you are going to do a lot many things that are going to affect you in a very negative manner. So if you have to be successful in life, it doesn't matter what ambitions you have. There are always a great possibility that you can achieve what you so desire. But remember, success is not happiness is not connected with success. If you have a desire and the desire says that okay, achieve this and you will be happy, that is going to be so not true. There are only two things, two reasons for you, two times you will appreciate anything in life. Once when you don't have it, and the second when you have lost what you have had. When you have a thing, you don't tend to appreciate it at all. And understanding to be happy, you need to know what the Vedic rishis have explained so beautifully in across their Vedic text. And that is the knowledge which you are going to know as a part of this Kautilya Leadership Program online foundation course. I hope you enjoyed my little explanation. And if you have any more questions, you can just leave it in the comment below, and we will try to answer, or even you can send us a direct message, a chat message on our website, or as well as a direct communications on the Facebook, and we'll be most happy to answer your queries. Thank you so much for listening into this video. Looking forward to you to be a part of our a very interesting program. Namaste.